and Steve is the manager at the food pantry. I talk to him, I'm on a truck with him 3 times a week, so we're very close. The communication works very well. On the other side of it too, I'm in the food pantry all the time, so I see the volunteers working too, and how it works, and we have no problem getting volunteers, so it's a good situation. If Steve has a problem, or if a volunteer has a problem, and they can't solve it with Steve, we sit down with the chair of the next level. If we can't solve it, then it eventually gets to particular council. But most of the time, if the communication is open and we rely, as Sue said, the key thing in this is to make sure you've got qualified, good managers. We've been lucky. Angela's fantastic. I mean,
You saw our story.
she's just a gift, and it really has improved our whole organization in Peterborough because of the good sales at Vinnie's. At the food pantry, the guy we hired was an old grocery guy. I mean, what better qualifications could we have in a manager's role than a grocery guy? I mean, he makes us look like we're genius, you know? We don't know what he's doing. We're a bunch of morons, and he's doing it, you know? And he makes us look good. I mean, but if you have somebody, now we did go through 3 different managers too before we got to the point. So when we started through these things, we did have some errors and some blunders that we had to work out. You know, initially we weren't paying a manager enough, which is a problem, you know. We're asking them to take on a big role. You know, and sometimes I feel for Angela. In her situation, she's dealing with paid employees. That's a very different situation than dealing with volunteers. And even sticky volunteers, you know. But they're volunteers. They're going to come or they're not going to come. And because we have a good manager and good communication, they're coming. So we have 150 volunteers at the food pantry. And so it's working. People feel good about coming there. As for Angela, it's the same thing. You know, it's a good place. You know, we're hiring our own clients.
So there's really no need for people to be interfering in those operations. Anybody from there up should be working on strategic planning, all the other things that our society does, and leave that work to the knowledgeable. Hi.
I have a question. What is the makeup of that store committee? What's the recommended makeup? Is it members of the store?
You know what, right now, we don't even have a store committee. We have just one person who's a store chair and a food bank chair. We used to have committees. We found it just became very, a bitch session, really. So they weren't active or knew what to do. They always tried to get involved. So we just went to a really strong store chair person of each area.
Yeah, so just.
But then we do have that steering committee.
Yeah. Recently, when I became president, I instituted the steering committee. So the store chair, the food pantry chair, we have one other conference member on it, and myself. And we meet, right now we meet probably every 2 weeks. And we also invite Angela. It's not mandatory for her to come, but she's invited to come. And so is Steve invited to come. More or less, we do the oversight. These are the things that we would like Angela to address, that may need to be addressed. As an example, we had health and safety. It's required by law to have certain aspects of signage within your store. You must have, and this is not optional, you must have a health and safety board in your store. Say you have a lunchroom for your employees. In your lunchroom, it has to have Employment Standard Act on it. There must be a policy guide from the particular council in our case, or a higher entity in there, written by the president. There has to be a sexual harassment policy, and so on and so forth. These are all required by law. It's not something that you have, well, I think I'll do this. I think one of the mistakes maybe, I haven't really traveled around a lot, but we really have to treat these organizations within our organization as businesses. You cannot function anymore by saying we are a good Catholic organization, nobody's ever going to sue us or have issues with our employees and that kind of stuff, and they'll be all okay. You have to be aware of what the Employment Standards Acts are. And in Ontario, they recently changed. They became effective January 1. You need to know what those changes are. So I really encourage people to treat it as a business as opposed to, I don't know, a nice to have or you're serving the community type of attitude to it.
And even just to add, the Parks Board Council being the board is actually the one accountable.
Absolutely.
Okay, so that's very important for people to understand, that whatever decisions are made, it's the board that is accountable.
You have a fiduciary responsibility to the organization, and you are held accountable to those.
But that does not give you the right to interfere in store operations.
And that's where the governance comes into part. Yes, governance, not doing.
I have a question for Peter about the chain of command. So you are president of a particular council, you are also a volunteer at the food bank. So
I do.
in your, I'm sure, and I'm a similar thing with the store. So I'm at the store, people come to me as president and say, how should I do this? Is this okay if I do this? And I say, that's a Linda question. Linda's our manager. But that people just naturally, they think, well, you've got a title, so you can give us the marching orders. No, you have to push that back away and
But
away and
it's
away.
up to that area up top, like you
Yeah.
do, is to deflect the question
Yeah.
to where it should be. Bill, you're gonna ask a tough question, I know it.
No, this is for you. Just lost my train of thought here.
Perfect.
Thank you, Phil.
How important is the store managers getting together to network with each other?
I was just gonna say,
That's part of it. Let me finish my next part. So how important that is, and the second part of that is, because I suspect you say it's important, I count in this room here, there's 11 stores that I can see, or conferences or councils that represent 11 stores. How many of them are participating in the meetings here in Peterborough this weekend? Because you had a store gathering, so where's the support? And if they don't have the support, why should they need support from their councils to participate in regional meetings with stores, other store managers?
what was the first part of the question?
Is it important for
Bill,
store managers
it's
to get
very important
together?
the managers get together. Yesterday, we had the best meeting ever. I had an agenda, I had 2 items on it. The rest was all them. They network, they become part of a family together. They feel like now they know, they can put a name to a face. If something is happening in one store, they can call another store.
So if a
It's
manager
a
does not
family-
attend, what's the reasons why managers do not attend?
I think a lot is non-support from particular councils. So the ones that are here, yes, they get support. There's many out there that are so off to the side, they don't even consider them part of the organization. As much as we try, right?
So is there, from regional or somewhere, is there any way that we can support them, whether it's in getting them engaged in the group or getting them out of one of these dysfunctional relationships?
There really is, and I'm gonna, it's hard, right, Richard? Like,
Yep.
some of the stories we heard yesterday are terrible. it would be great if helped presidents say that something is not right in your area. I try my best. I only can say so much. But we have broken managers. It's heart-wrenching. It's heart-wrenching for us at Ontario Regional.
At the heart of that dysfunction is exactly the scenario you addressed. The whole idea where somebody is going around talking to somebody and thinking that that's the way to solve the problem. And that's exactly the situation that we had to go in and address. I had to go and say to this person, if somebody comes to you and talks to you, you tell them that you can't talk to them, go talk to your store manager first. And if they do that, that's the first step into correcting all of the nonsense that goes on. And it's the same way both ends, you know. If you've got a problem, well, you can address it to the chair, and then the chair will go back and do it through those right channels. But if they don't, you're gonna have an uphill battle from step one. It's awful.
And so when they don't, and they're not here, they're not attending, what do I do? So now, I'm invited to the board meeting on Monday. So do I walk into the meeting and say, I'm gonna tell you what I know? But I just wanna make it clear with everybody,
Well,
because it's not happening right now. I deal with people, and then these people
that's
go
your
up
next question.
to the president, right? Because she's a cashier on Wednesday, and things carry on for months and months and months.
And the
And
trouble
there's no
is
support.
that the managers know how it should go, but they have to go and tell their employer that you're doing things wrong. Pretty catch-22 for a manager. Brian?
Yeah, would there actually be slides after or available, maybe on the internet or for a handout that,
I will give you my handout, Brian.
terrific. I'll
I'm
take that to
thinking
the
that
board
maybe
because,
I will take it to you and give it to you.
thank you.
I will come and present it to your council if you want.
But if you're, yeah, but if you're interested in general governance material, one of the workshops that was done at the AGA last year in St. John's is actually on the national website. It's
Yes,
called
I know that.
Special
Yeah.
work, so you've seen that. So this is the baseline type of material you can actually help to educate. I mean, at the end of the day, unfortunately, many times people join a board, you know, good intentions, but they don't actually appreciate the full complexity of the responsibilities. So it's part of also a journey of understanding the responsibilities. I mean, everything that we're hearing is if someone says, oh, I think I can do this better. I think the pricing on that item should be better. I mean, you laugh, but that's I hear these stories. And you know, I like the analogy that was used. Okay, so like, you know, one day you wear this hat, you're the president of the particular council, but suddenly you walk into the store as a volunteer, you have to pull out that hat. You wear a totally different hat, and now you got to follow the structure. I mean, that's, and it's to use a sport analogy, I mean, teamwork means you play your position, because if you don't play your position, you know, you won't win, so.
Mike?
So just the store committee, when you have the leader or whoever is representing the leader of the store committee, so their job is effectively to be a liaison or arbitrator between the store manager and particular council. And hopefully when you have a committee, it's a good one, to try and be objective. And I noticed you have strategically the center there, to try and bridge the gap between the two sides. So if there's a problem, particular council and store manager, the store committee could help smooth out relations in a sense.
And it should, and it should.
I actually think like in our policy, the way it reads is that, like with the store, if there's an issue, it goes to the manager first and then
The store chair.
the store chair, and that decision stands, unless it's like abuse or harassment.
Harassment, yeah. But we've just done a new store, Peter's got it, a new human resource policy, is that what we're calling it?
Yeah.
I sent it to Richard.
So Richard has it. We will upload it to our peer-to-peer for one. We could put it on our other website, Ontario. It really lays out everything really well. We pay to